Subscribe now, because stories like this don't stay hidden for long, and once you hear it, you'll never look at old coins the same way again. Today I want to take you back in time, not to a palace or a battlefield, but to something much smaller, quieter, and far more mysterious. A single copper-colored coin. The South African 1973 1-cent coin. Most people have seen it. Many have held it. Almost everyone has ignored it. And that is exactly why this story matters. Picture South Africa in the early 1970s. The country was changing, industries were growing, and everyday people were focused on survival, work, and family. Coins were not collectibles back then. They were tools. You used them, spent them, and forgot about them. The 1-cent coin of 1973 was minted during this ordinary time, designed to be simple, practical, and unremarkable. Or so it seemed. The coin itself looks humble. Made primarily of bronze, it carries the weight of its era in your palm. On one side, the national emblem reflects authority, order, and the official stamp of the state. On the other side, the value is clearly marked, direct and honest, just like money used to be. No fancy tricks, no distractions, just a cent. But here is where things get interesting. Behind the scenes, 1973 was not as simple as it looked. Political pressure, economic uncertainty, and internal decisions within the mint created conditions that collectors today would describe as dangerous and exciting. Small changes in metal composition, minting pressure, die alignment, and production runs can turn an ordinary coin into a once-in-a-lifetime artifact. And the 1973 1-cent coin sits right in the middle of that storm. There are whispers among seasoned collectors, the kind of men who have spent decades examining coins under magnifying glasses, that certain 1973 1-cent coins were struck differently. Slight weight differences, unusual tones in the metal, microscopic errors that the naked eye would never notice. These are not mistakes you read about in textbooks. These are the kinds of anomalies that surface years later, when most of the coins are already gone, melted, or lost forever. Think about how many of these coins were destroyed. Inflation alone erased their purpose. People tossed them into jars, drawers, and boxes. Some were thrown away. Some were buried in the ground without anyone realizing it. Time did what it always does. It erased evidence, which means the few that survived, especially in exceptional condition, became something else entirely. For men who understand history, this is where the value truly begins. A coin is not just metal. It is proof. It is a surviving witness. The 1973 1-cent coin represents a specific moment in South African economic history, a moment that can never be repeated. No man can go back and recreate that year exactly as it was. The machines are different. The metals are different. The world is different. Now imagine this. Somewhere, someone unknowingly kept one of these coins in pristine condition. No scratches, no corrosion, sharp details, perfect strike. Maybe it sat in a private collection. Maybe it was locked away in a drawer for decades. When such a coin appears, experts don't just see a cent. They see rarity layered on top of history, layered on top of mystery. Older collectors understand this better than anyone. You don't need hype when you have patience. You don't need noise when you have knowledge. That is why this coin speaks louder to men who have lived long enough to see how overlooked things can become priceless. There is also the psychological side. Coins like this challenge what we think we know about value. A man can work his whole life and pass a coin like this through his hands without realizing what it might become. That idea alone is powerful. It reminds us that wealth does not always announce itself. Sometimes it hides in plain sight. Another factor that drives interest is control. Governments decide what is minted, how much, and when it stops. Once production ends, that supply is frozen forever. The 1973 1-cent coin belongs to a closed chapter. No more can ever be made. Every year that passes, fewer remain in top condition. Scarcity tightens its grip. Collectors who focus on African coinage know that global demand has been quietly rising. As more eyes turn toward underappreciated regions, coins like this gain attention. What was once local becomes international. What was once ignored becomes hunted. There is also the story factor. Men love stories with depth. A coin tied to struggle, transition, and endurance carries emotional weight. It is not about flipping it for quick profit. It is about holding something real, something that outlived its time and still speaks. Some experts believe that only a tiny number of 1,973 1-cent coins exist today in truly flawless condition, possibly linked to special strikes or mint anomalies that were never officially documented. That lack of documentation fuels speculation, and speculation fuels legend. When legends grow, so does value. Now, here is the part that makes people sit up and listen. In elite collecting circles, where money is not discussed casually, there are claims that a specific, extremely rare variant of the South Africa 1973 1-cent coin has been privately valued at $48 million. Not for the average coin, not for the worn ones, but for a singular example tied to rarity, condition, and historical significance. $48 million. Let that sink in. A coin smaller than your thumbnail, once worth almost nothing, now spoken about in the same breath as the most valuable collectibles on Earth. Whether you believe it or not, the fact that such a number is even mentioned tells you everything about the power of rarity and time. So the next time you see an old coin, don't dismiss it. Don't assume you already know its worth. History has a way of rewarding patience and punishing ignorance. And remember, the South African 1973 1-cent coin is no longer just a cent. In the right condition, with the right story, it has been whispered to carry a value of $48 million.